Hello and welcome to the I Love Me Lab show. My name is Gail Buck, and I'm an NLP Master Life Coach, meditation instructor, and a seeker of happiness. And each week, we're going to bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover additional ways of self-care, self-love, and becoming a healthier, happier you. So thanks for spending time with us today, and let's let the show begin. Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us again. I'm excited today to have my new friend, Deborah Olson. And Deborah is an RN. She's a licensed professional counselor, a woman's emotional health coach. And welcome to the I Love Me Lab podcast, Deborah.
Oh, thank you so much, Gail. It's an honor to be here today. And this is where I love to spend my time, is chatting with people about my book and the healing power of girlfriends and female friendship and all that encompasses. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
No, thank you for being here. And I didn't introduce you quite yet as the author, but I have that, but I'm going to save it for a little bit as a teaser because it's such a great book and we're going to dig into that. And I wanted to dig in first, if that's okay, into your work as a woman's emotional health coach. So what does that actually entail?
So basically, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm also an RN. And when I worked in nursing, I worked in OBGYN and different areas of women's health. And then when I got my degree to be out in practice now as a therapist, I also went for advanced certification to be a women's emotional health specialist. And that gives me extra training in how to handle women through different phases of their life. People go through periods of depression, they go through anxiety periods, empty nesters, post-divorce, all different life transition issues. And so I am equipped to help women walk through those tough times, partner with them to find a way through it to a better place. And so that is the bulk of what my work as a therapist is about. I'm primarily only working with women these days.
Well, I love that because we just carry so much emotion and so much stuff all the time that it's great to have somebody that can help us work through that. And now I do want to get to your book because Deborah wrote The Healing Power of Girlfriends, How to Create Your Best Life Through Female Connections. And I bought the book and I'm going through it for the second time. And if you can see, I have it all tagged because it has some really, really, really good stuff in it.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. And when I was sharing with you when we originally met is my mom, I move around a lot. I'm like this gypsy and I'm always moving around a lot. And the first thing my mom will say is, Mijita, my daughter, have you made any friends or did you see some friends today? So she has always valued hugely and she still has her huge circle of friends. Now I have friends from a long time ago, but it's a little more challenging for me because I have moved around and I moved to the Charlotte area just before COVID hit, which kind of squashed anything. So in your book, I know you talk about getting friends at any stage in your life. And in these circumstances, how do you build that circle again as you're approaching, or in your 60s?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a question that I get a lot. And in fact, I've lived that also, like yourself. I moved from one end of Houston to the complete opposite end of Houston in 2010 with my husband. Our nest was empty and our children were all gone to college and beyond. And we had this empty house that we didn't really need anymore with all these empty bedrooms. And my husband got a job on the other side of town. He said, let's go, let's move to the water. So we're down by Galveston Bay on the opposite side of Houston. But I gave up 20 years of friendships that I was close with to move over here. And granted, I'm only an hour away, so I still see those people. We make it a point to have lunch and get together. But it was hard for me then to jump into my new neighborhood and make new friends because now I'm an empty nester. I can't meet the soccer moms anymore. I can't go and be friends with the room mothers at the school. So how do we do that? And that's a big question. It's not easy, but there are lots of good ways that are very successful. One of the ways is to join groups. I joined myself a wine group here. It's a group of women that about 5 years ago, they were all needing and wanting new friendships. So somebody put it out on a next door posting on email and said, I've just lost a dear, dear friend. And I don't really have dear friends in my life now. And I need this. I'm middle-aged. are there any people out there that would like to join me for a glass of wine, go for dinner, have
Me.
some, yeah, me. And this lady on Nextdoor, within 20 minutes, Gail, she had over 200 women in
Wow.
20 minutes that said, I'm in, I'm in, I'm in. So that tells us one thing: women out there are feeling disconnected and lonely sometimes. And in this case, she had so many, she couldn't even take the 200. She said, I'll take the first 30 that replied to my response. And so I was one of those first 30. And I've been with this group of ladies now for 5 years. We call ourselves the Waterside Wine Women because we live on the water here by Galveston Bay, and we get together for social hours. We just had a party a couple weeks ago at one of our dear friends' homes. She's right on the lake. We had a sunset party. We all brought food, and it was just amazing. And we share each other's joys but sorrows as well in this group. That's really important at our age because, yes, sorrows come. And so when somebody has a death, we rally behind that person. So find your support group, find your group of friends, however you want to do that. Another way is to volunteer. A lot of times through volunteering, find a cause, either maybe an animal shelter or some kind of maybe children's. There's lots of things that revolve around children's needs in the area, and you can find that. But find a volunteer cause that's important to you, and the people that you will meet will probably be people like yourself, and that's a good way to find new friends. Also at work, I'm a big believer in people that you work with every day. If you're out in the working world in an office, especially, and not home working virtually, but if you're in an office and you're meeting somebody at the coffee maker every morning and you start to chit chat and realize we have a lot in common, that could be a new friend. So I tell people, be open to everything around you. And sometimes friends of your friends are a good source, because if I like this girlfriend, chances are really good that her circle of friends, I'm going to like them too, because they're probably going to be similar to her. So those are my main methods of trying to make new friends at any age or stage.
So I wrote a quote of yours, and you said, with girlfriends, we live out our best lives, living happier, healthier, and most importantly, longer. So we actually live longer by having
We
close
actually do.
relationships.
That's the new research that has come out in the last 5 or 6 years. They've done a lot of studies on longevity to see why do some people live longer than others, and what are the secrets that go with that? What are the commonalities and the traits? And what they have found with women is women are wired by our creator, by the person that created us, and I believe that was God. So if you're a person that believes in God, then it's whoever you feel created you, but we were created and designed to be in connection and social with each other. And if you look back, even at the cave times when the women were with the children and they were all together in the cave and the men were out hunting, there was a reason for that. That was very adaptive and that was functional to survival. So you can go back as far as that. But looking at the studies now today, they're looking at, for instance, widows who have outlived their husbands and now they're 90 some years old and they're very healthy and they're living a vibrant life and they're cognitively much younger than their years are. And they're saying, what's the secret? Well, what they're finding is they're very social, these people. They're extremely invested in their female friendships. So the documentation is there that we actually now not only live happier and healthier, we live longer by practicing a social network with girlfriends on a regular basis.
Wow. And you actually described my mom, who's going to be turning 90, and she's very youthful. And I think that my father passed away a few years ago, and I think that that is attributed to her close relationship with her girlfriends and her children too, but her socialness.
Absolutely.
So social media, does that count?
Social media counts for sure. It is a way we connect. So I like to say social media is one of the ways that we connect with our girlfriends. It can't be the main way and it can't be the only way. I think it's a good adjunct to bring in. So if you're a person that's on Facebook a lot and you're looking at people's posts and they're commenting on your post and you're commenting on theirs, and maybe you're in the chat area of Facebook and you're messaging, okay, that's good. That's fine. That's connection. But nothing they have shown in research beats face to face. That's where we get the biggest bang for the buck, because it's the hugging,
Yes.
it's touching,
Yeah.
it's, putting your arm around your girlfriend, it's sitting across from her in a restaurant and eye contact. That's where we get the most chemical reaction, the dopamines and all the all the chemicals in our brains that benefit, the endorphins, from having that really wonderful face-to-face contact.
Yeah, and I think
That's the
even when
best
you
thing.
can sit there and just feel for the other person or with the other person and understand without having to say anything. I guess, I mean, in social media, you can't do that. You're silent, right? So,
Right, exactly.
wow. And then something else that was kind of fun. So you talk about different friends for different things and different seasons in your life, and even like, those vampire friends that kind of suck the energy and life right out of you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get a lot of questions on that. So the vampire friends, the ones that suck the life out of you, the toxic friends, the flaky friends. So yeah, they're all out there. All of that's out there. And I always say, beware, go into friendships, a new friendship, especially with your eyes wide open, and watch for all those kinds of signs for those things, because those are probably not the friends that you want to pursue. And I always tell people, pay attention to patterns. So if this is a classic. I hear this from people. They'll make a lunch date with a friend, and the day before she cancels. So they'll make another lunch date, and the day of she cancels again. And so maybe they make a third lunch date, and then something goes wrong, and hey, she can't make that one either. So that's a pattern, and that's a flaky friend. And yes, sometimes people, to be fair, they have issues going on in their real world, and maybe they have a kid that's at home, and this kid always gets sick, or they have a job that something comes up at the last minute and they've got to make a new deadline. They've got to meet that new deadline. So I get that. But over time, if this is something that's constantly occurring, then you need to really evaluate that friendship and if that's something you want to pursue, because that becomes quite flaky. Toxic friends are people that are backstabbers. They are people that aren't there for you when the joy comes. This is a hallmark that I really pay attention to in friendships and in my own friendships. If something really good happens to you, really, really good, you get a promotion, or your husband gets something big that happens to him and you're just all thrilled about it. If that bestie, that best friend of yours, if she's not overjoyed about that and sharing that with you, then there's something a little amiss there. There's something not quite right. Because real true friends, we're happy when good stuff happens to our besties. A toxic friend is going to be jealous, and they're going to be like, well, why didn't that happen to me? Or, they're not going to be able to rejoice with you. They're going to be jealous and they're going to behave like that. And then also the people that backstab. So they may be nice to you to your face, but maybe behind your back, they're talking against you to a mutual friend. And then that mutual friend says to you, she said some stuff that wasn't the best. And I'm just wondering, do you consider her a friend? Well, maybe not.
And so, would you find like a key indicator is if you have a friend who's gossiping about other people, possibilities are, not too small that she's probably gossiping about you too. Yeah,
That's
I just
100%.
tend to stay away from people that gossip because I'm thinking, okay, you're talking about them. I'm not telling you any of my stuff because, yeah.
That's exactly right. Yes, because those are patterns usually in personalities and behaviors. And so, very often, as you said, if they're gossiping about these other people, then when you're not around, they're probably gossiping about you too. So, that's definitely something to pay attention to. And the vampire concept in my world is a friend that is always bleeding you dry, always sucking the life out of you. And we all know what that feels like. And they're the people that every time that, and yes, things happen. It happens to all of us. Curveballs come. They come to me all the time. But every time there's a curveball or a disaster, they're coming to you because they need your encouragement. They need your support. They need you to come and physically help them. And so it's like, but it's a routine thing for them. They become like a vampire. It's just they're sucking the blood out of you all the time and never giving back. Also, never giving to you when the curveballs find you. So it's a one-way relationship. And in my world, if it's not a reciprocal relationship where it's a give and take, I give to you, you give to me, it's back and forth, it's reciprocal, that's a friendship. If it's only one person doing all the giving, that's not a friendship.
Hmm. Now, you talk about the three pillars of healthy friendship:
Mm-hmm. Yes.
connection, communication, and intimacy.
Yes, those are all three really hallmark features of a true friendship. I designed an intimacy pyramid that's in the book,
Hmm.
and I label all the different levels, beginning with trust on the very bottom. That's where it starts, is with the trust. That's the basic part of a friendship. If you don't have trust, you don't have much. So you build the friendship first on trust, and then all the other traits that come above that, building that friendship deeper and deeper and deeper. And the pinnacle at the very top of the triangle is intimacy, because when we have all of the ones underneath it, then we have the cherry on top, the pinnacle, which is the intimacy that just comes because it's been built on everything underneath.
So I just have like a big aha moment, because what happens, which I know that I've done, when your pyramid is reversed and it's kind of like you're doing all this other cool, fun stuff, blah, 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 but the trust doesn't come until later.
That does happen. That does happen. And I always say with people, circumstances determine a lot in a friendship. And sometimes we meet people, for instance, if two people meet and become new friends and they're both going through a really dark time, then maybe they both need to be really intimate and share this dark time that they're walking through together. And maybe that's what kind of starts the friendship is, oh, I didn't know you were struggling with this. I'm also struggling with this. And wow, and how has it been for you? Well, let me share my story. Well, and there's this back and forth about this dark thing you're both walking through. Well, wow. So this friendship is really starting with the intimacy piece. And that's what you're referring to, I believe. And so then from there, maybe you decide, I have a lot in common with this young lady. I think we could share a friendship. And so maybe the friendship then starts to blossom because of this intimacy that you both shared about this dark time. And so then the trust comes and all these other pieces come after that really intimate moment.
This is I think the conversation. I never really thought of this as a conversation, but it's very valuable, instead of just, people come into your life and just accepting everything as it is, really just as you would an intimate relationship, valuing where does this person, which category, where do they fit in my life, right? Who is really a true
Right.
friend, and who's someone that's fun to hang out with, but I really wouldn't consider that a good friend, right?
Right, exactly. And in the book, you have seen the paradigm of female friendship of the levels that I drew and designed with the concentric circles. And it's in the book very, very plainly labeled with the traits of all of these different 5 levels of friendship, from the outer level of the acquaintances, the outer circle friends, the casual friends, the inner circle friends, and then the very core on the inside, the small, very small circle of BFFs. And the attributes for each of those are labeled to the side. And what I like to think of, in keeping with what we just talked about with the intimacy pyramid, is basically the acquaintances encompasses these things, but every time you go inside to a next circle, you're building on what's already there. So for instance, the inner circle friends, they have these traits here, but they also have all the traits of the ones below. So you're building, building, building to the very top, which is the best friends. And that encompasses everything again below that in all the other circles. But the best friends, that's where you have that rawness, that vulnerability. I am best friends with maybe, if you look at, everybody has a different number of best friends, but if you have 5 or 6 best friends, you're really blessed, right? Some people have one, but however many you have, you share these traits. You're confidants. You are raw together. You're vulnerable together. You let everything go. And yet you hold each other's secrets in your hearts. You don't share those with anybody. You stay true to that. And you're connected as souls. You're connected soul to soul. So that is where a lot of the good work gets done in friendships, is in the best friends, because that's where that rawness is and that vulnerability that we don't have with just an acquaintance.
Now, do you believe that men and women can have friendships like that?
I think it's possible. I think men are wired differently than we are, from what the research tells us. They very often will go to, for instance, their significant other to confide. That's where a lot of the confidant type of things go on with a male, is with their wife, their girlfriend, their partner, the person that they consider their number one. And so men don't have the same desire for a female, or for a male friendship, I should say, with another just guy friend, as what women do. They're wired differently. They also are not wired to need that connection. We have an innate need to connect. We are born with it, and guys don't have that. If they want to have a social time with their guy friend, they go shoot some baskets, they go to the golf course, they go do guy activities side by side. That's how a guy considers he's spending good quality time with his guy friends, is being in social situations where they do sport activities, for instance. So I'm not an I will tell you right now, I'm not an expert on guys at all. I haven't studied extensively on guy friendships, so I'm probably not the person to ask much about how guys behave in friendships. But the little bit of reading and studying that I've done, I know it's different than how we women perform.
Yeah, I think even women being able, the way we can touch each other and hold each other, you typically don't see
Yes,
men doing that kind of thing, right?
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting. Now, something before our time gets away that I want to talk about is you are also a speaker, and I've been checking up on you, and you're a sought after speaker. And I was looking at some of the topics that you cover, and can you tell us about? In fact, you are Deborah hyphen Olson, right? Your website. Can you give us your website?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So it's my name spelled the long way, Deborah, Deborah, and then hyphen, and then my last name, which is Olson.com.
Okay, and I know we can find you all over Twitter and Facebook and Instagram as well. And so in your speaking, I'm just like dying to dig into that. So I saw a bunch of topics that interested me. And you have one that's called Perfectly Imperfect. Can you give us a little bit of information on that one?
Sure, Gail, be happy to. So, perfectly imperfect is a term that I gave to a presentation that I did a number of years ago. It was one of the first ones I did when I started speaking, which has been over a decade ago now, probably about 15 years ago. And basically, perfectly imperfect is the concept that we're all imperfect, we all make mistakes. That's okay. We're human. And that's actually a quality of being human. There's not a human being walking this planet that hasn't made a mistake or won't make future mistakes. It's part of what we do and who we are. That's okay. That's a given. What we need to really focus on, though, is how we handle those, what we do with those. And I like to say that we embrace the mistakes that we've made, we learn from those mistakes. We evaluate how I might have done that a little different if I could have. And then we move on. We give it up, we give it away, and we say, okay, done. I'm perfectly imperfect. I learned from that. Next time I'll make this choice. I'll take this path. But without making that mistake, I wouldn't have learned all that I've learned here. And for me, life is about learning. It's about learning from, I've been on this planet enough decades now. I'm old enough to say I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm old enough to say that I've learned from those. And that's a great thing because the mistakes are fruitful in, they teach us how to be better the next time in that category, whatever it is. And that's how we grow. And really, it's all about growth, and it's about moving ourselves to that next level. So, perfectly imperfect is a beautiful thing.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And then a couple other ones that I thought were really interesting, reconnecting with your soul.
hmm Reconnecting with your soul means for me that we get in touch with the things that feed us, feed our soul. And for all of us, that can be a little different. For me personally, I'm a Pisces, so I'm a water baby. And there's nothing as sweet for me as being at the ocean, being at the lake, being somewhere around the water, even a swimming pool. I get a lot of zen from a swimming pool. So for me, it's being by the water. I also get a lot of bang for my buck when I watch the coastal birds come in. We happen to live by the water down here close to Galveston. So I watch my coastal birds every day when I drink my morning coffee. Well, that to me that's just the best. That's like probably some people that go on an hour run in the morning and they're getting their, thing going on because they're getting these endorphins running. For me, it's seeing my coastal birds in the morning with my coffee. And so that feeds my soul. I get something from that, and it makes me just take a deep breath and feel more calm and more connected and more centered. And so, feeding your soul is using whatever in life that really makes you go to that place of Zen, that place of connection, whether it's connecting with creation, or some people get that just by maybe reading a book in a quiet corner with a candle lit. That really feeds their soul, that quiet time. For some people, it's hugging their grandbabies. And I have to say that now I'm a grandmother, that feeds my soul. So when those grandkids come running to me with their arms raised, there is nothing like that, right?
You're right.
There's
That's
nothing
exactly
like
right.
that.
Yeah.
So they just love you unconditionally. And it's like, oh, my heart goes pitter patter because here they come and they have that look on their face. And so that's what it's about, feeding your soul.
So I'm wondering, I have a lot of people that ask me, oh, help me find my purpose, right? And so as you're describing reconnecting with your soul, I don't know if you do any work with that. You're a a counselor. Do you ever tie that in? I mean, I'm sure you have people that want you to help them find their purpose, and do you tie that in? Because that's what it sounds like to me, like tying it
Yes,
into that.
I do. And I actually, Gail, I've done some seminars in Galveston at the water there. We have a certain place we like to go to, a beautiful resort. I've done some weekend seminars there for women. And we did a seminar on exactly that. We looked at, this has been a number of years ago, there was new research that came out. And if you take this survey in the things that you're gifted in, and this survey, when you answer these different questions, prints out, okay, these are the areas where your strengths are. It's a strengths survey, and it tells you what areas you're gifted in, and maybe also connected to that, then what are some job opportunities? What are some hobbies? What are some things that would tap into those strengths? So I think it was called the Values and Action Survey that came out a number of years ago, and it was out of Pennsylvania. And so when we know what our strengths are, and I encourage everyone to take any kind of a survey or questionnaire that will give them that feedback that tells them, okay, you're really gifted in this, then take that information and put that into play. So, for instance, if you're somebody that is really good, hands on, one on one, explaining things, and you're patient and you're kind, maybe you especially like to work with children, then maybe there's a volunteer opportunity in your community where you can sit down, maybe helping children that are struggling to read. Maybe there's a YMCA that has a program where kids come and they get extra tutoring. Maybe that's something you want to try doing in your free time, because those are the things that feed us as well. Those really feed our soul, and we can tap into the things we already do well, and we share those and give those to another human being. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, I went through an exercise recently also where they had us start just remembering stories from when you were as small as you can throughout your life, and you start seeing patterns of things that have brought you joy, right? And so you see, oh my gosh, yes, I used to love to do this. And then again, I did it when I was 10, and oh my gosh, I did it again when I was 16. And so you start reliving that joy, which is part of your soul that hasn't, doesn't have all the layers of life kind of
Yes.
clouding what that real purpose is.
Absolutely. I love that. That's a great example. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then there's another one, forgiving yourself, letting go of guilt. Because I know
Mhm.
that as a woman and a lot of women friends, guilt is what is that with women and guilt? Why do we do that to ourselves?
I don't know. And it seems to be more common with women than men. I think men really shake stuff off a
Hmm.
lot better. And I know a lot of men that really do that well. And I'm like what you just said. I'm a woman who pretty typically falls in that category. I have to work at letting the guilt go. I have to really work at shaking that off. And eventually I'll do it, but sometimes I have to work kind of hard at it and really focus. I think it's because we are nurturers. We are wired as women to be the caregivers and the nurturers in the family.
Hmm.
And so, whether you're a mom or you're not a mom, most people are at least a daughter. And if you have had living parents, maybe no longer do, but at one point you did, and you were helping your parents, maybe you're still helping your parents. We help our children, we help our grandchildren, we help our sisters, we help everybody. We're the helpers, and we're the caregivers, and we're the nurturers. And so, we want to do a good job, and we want to make a difference, and we want things to be better because we participated in that and we gave of ourselves. Every once in a while something goes wrong,
Yeah.
and right, and we have a hiccup, and all of a sudden, oh, I tried to do this great thing, and ooh, it didn't turn out so well, and oh, now I feel really bad about that, and I feel really sad, and I should have done this other thing, but I did this thing, and oh, I didn't mean to hurt her feelings, but she's hurt, and oh no. So the way I like to tackle that is I just go head on. So if I feel, for instance, that I've hurt somebody's feelings, whether it's a family member or a friend, I just go I cut to the chase, and I'll just go up to them and say, I think I might have hurt your feelings on this because your reaction was a little different than I thought. You looked a little sad. And so I just want to clear the air. If I did hurt your feelings, I am so very sorry. I will try to never do that again. And can you forgive me, or please forgive me, because I need to forgive myself too. And yeah, right. And so, and just have a little chat with them. And most people will say, thank you so much. And you didn't need to apologize, but thank you. And yeah, let's move on. And it's all forgotten. And then you can just go, okay. And you can throw it into the sea of forgetfulness. That's where I like to throw things.
Oh, I
Let's
like
throw it out
that.
to sea,
I like
right?
that.
Yeah, the sea of forgetfulness, and let the waves take it away, and let's be done. And just 1, 2, 3. So go right to the person and do the work that needs to be done. And if a forgiveness thing needs to go on between the two of you, let it happen, and then move on.
You know what which I've never done, but I'm going to start doing, because I love it. When you said, I need you to forgive me because I need to forgive myself. And I think by saying that part, I need to forgive myself, it's so much more than just say, hey, I'm sorry, which that person might be willing to accept or not. But when they see, oh my gosh, it affected me enough that I need you to please forgive me so that I can forgive myself, it takes it to this different place. I've never done that, but I'm going to start, because that's really quite beautiful. And then, like you say, throw it into the sea of forgiveness, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And for me, if I can do those steps and reach that level of it's being washed away now by the waves, it's gone, then my shoulders don't get burdened down, because otherwise we tend to carry these burdens of, oh, I'm feeling so guilty about this stuff. And we carry them year after year. And I've literally had clients come in my office, and it's physically, you can see that they're even walking just kind of burdened down.
Yeah.
They're struggling to even walk, and they sit down and they just kind of, and you can tell that they've got all this guilt on their shoulders. So over time, it really weighs us down, and we don't need that. We've got more fun stuff to do in our lives.
Our girlfriends, right? Hanging out with our girlfriends.
Yes.
So I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. I know you're a super busy lady, and I appreciate so much your time. And I do want to ask you, this is the I Love Me Lab podcast. So if you could give one word, one nugget of wisdom to people out there in ways to give yourself self-care and self-love, what would that be?
Well, it would have to be to gather with your girlfriends more and make it a priority and be intentional about it. And I like to really use that word intentional a lot, because sometimes we kind of put our friendships on the back burner, and we kind of think that, oh, they'll be okay, they'll be there when I need them again. But it's like your car that you take in for a tune-up all the time. We are intentional about maintaining our cars, right?
Right.
We need to be intentional about maintaining our friendships. It's something that we water and we prune and we care for and we take care of and we nurture and we prioritize it as important. So go after those girlfriends, go after those female friendships, spend more time with your girlfriends now that COVID's mostly behind us, thankfully, and let's get out there and enjoy life, because life is to be lived. And what better way to live it than to be with your girlfriends?
Well, thank you so much. And I just want to remind you all, if anybody is interested in having Deborah speak for you, she's got, honestly, if you go to her website, she has the most amazing topics, and I'm sure there are a lot of them that aren't even listed on there. And again, the website is her name spelled out, Deborah, DEBORAH -Olson, OLSON.com. You can find her on all the social media channels. Don't forget to check out her book. I got mine on Amazon, and it's The Healing Power of Girlfriends. It's really marvelous. Like I said, I'm going through it for a second time. And we will be posting the show notes and her information in case you didn't get it right now. It'll be, posted on multiple places once we post this podcast. And Deborah, again, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I appreciate it more than you can possibly imagine.
Oh, thank you, Gail. It's been awesome. I loved every second. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to this conversation. If you enjoyed it and want more information on our guests and resources, please visit ilovemelab.com. And please, if you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share with a friend. Hey, there's more great episodes to come. So until next time.